Someone listen. She needs you. She needs help.
She needs you to go to her quickly.
She's dying.
That shit is pathetic. She needs you.
So Hellblade 2 finally came out. It's out on Game Pass. And you may be thinking, should I check this out? You know, if you're late to the party. So I'm here to tell you my experience with the game. Welcome to the channel if you're new around here. My name is Johnny. I like to play games and talk about games. And today we're gonna dive into Hellblade 2, what I thought were some of the highlights, and who I think this caters to. When it comes to the gameplay, this is a game where if you have the right expectations jumping into it, you can have an amazing time. But if you come into this expecting sophisticated combo or action-oriented gameplay, you're going to be disappointed. There's a lot of push-forward gameplay here. There's a lot of just immersive, narrative-based type of stuff going on. And the combat itself is quite simplified, even compared to the first game, which is saying a lot. The first game didn't have a ton going on when it came to combat. You could dodge, you could block, right? You could parry, that type of stuff. That's about it. That's more or less what you have here. But on the plus side, what you have is some really sophisticated graphical presentation attached to the combat. It's very cinematic and very enjoyable if you can get into that mind space. But go into it with the right expectations. That's my biggest recommendation out of this. Straight up, when the game starts, there is a lot of just pushing down to walk forward type of thing. And you have to expect, they have to be okay with that. Because it does work with the narrative. You know, Senua is going through some shit, right? Well, she always has been from the beginning of, since the first game, and it hasn't changed. So, you know, she's going through a rough time, and you kind of have to commune with her in that and go through that pain with the slow moving at times when she's hurt, right? When she's beat down. It's a part of the experience as well. If you can't get into that mind space, though, it's really enjoyable. It's really immersive. And you just enjoy the soundscape and the visuals and everything. It all comes together really nicely for a short but sweet experience, right? This isn't a long game. You can get through it in a few hours, really. You know, maybe around 6 to 7 hours for me, because I do take my time looking around, taking in the scenery, taking pictures in photo mode. That's one of the pluses of the game too. The photo mode itself is a highlight because you can stop even in a cutscene and look around. Let's be honest, how many times do we have a photo mode where if you're in a cutscene, you can't move the camera? I don't know why that is. You know, it might be a limitation. Maybe they don't want you to see some of the trickery going on. Because in this game, yes, you do see some of the stuff where when you move the camera, maybe the fire effects or whatever don't look right because they were kind of done in a specific way for that camera angle in the cutscene. But regardless, it's super cool that you can stop and look around and get some great shots. And the game is just a marvel from a visual standpoint, right? But also from an audio, and the audio ties into the gameplay directly because the voices will be giving you clues and tips throughout the whole game. This is a very central part of the gameplay, is that the voices are commenting on what's going on narratively, but also from a gameplay standpoint. If the game is presenting you a challenge, very often the voices will be talking about it or maybe giving you a tip on how you could circumvent that. And speaking of obstacles, the game will present you with some simple but effective environmental puzzles that you have to navigate. I thought it worked pretty well and you had to pay attention, but it was simple enough that you could get through it quite easily. But it was satisfying when you solved the puzzle. And some of the reflections and things with the water were really smart in how they did it and how they conveyed the information of what was going to happen when you interacted with a different puzzle piece. So overall, I thought it worked pretty well. It is at the level of kind of like a Telltale game, but a bit more sophisticated than that, but removing the choice. So, you know, it's a give and take. You have better graphics and better puzzles than a Telltale, but you don't have the choice. And the comparison to a Telltale game is not totally fair because, of course, the level of the graphics and what they're doing here is way beyond that. But I do think that some of the gameplay is reminiscent of it when a lot of it comes down to, just literally walking. And the combat itself is almost at the level of a quick time event, even though, of course, you do have, real-time dodge and parry and stuff like that. It is very simple. So just keep your expectations very, very, contained for that part. But I thought that the narration was amazing and the level of the sound effects was something that really elevated the game when, just moving around had a really tactile feel with everything, how it sounded. And in combat, everybody had a different grunt. Every animation had its own sound that came to it. And it feels like every encounter had like custom made sound effects and animations to go with it. So very, very cool. A lot of effort went into it. And I definitely appreciate the vision, or I guess the drive of just wanting to go ham on one thing, which is the immersion aspect, right? So there's no HUD ever, and all efforts are made so that the immersion is the highest possible. I respect it. I think it's very cool. Does it land on all bullet points? No, not really, right? They're kind of going ham on the one thing with the immersion, but I think it's cool. As an experiment on how deep can we go on this one axis, I think it worked pretty well. And again, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a shorter experience. And I think it's better for that because the game is quite oppressive with the voices and being inside caves and deep spaces and stuff at times. So it is good that you come up for air sometimes and that it doesn't last that long as well. One last thing is that the gameplay does change when you beat the game and you play it for a second time. You have access to a different narrator, a different point of view, which gives some further depth into different characters that you've experienced throughout your first playthrough, but you didn't get to know as much. And now you're getting to see their point of view and making some surprising findings about how they viewed things in the first place, which is very cool and something I would love to see in more games. The different point of view narrator being unlocked. Very cool.
She has to survive.
Talking a bit about presentation, this is probably one of the best looking games that I've ever experienced. I'm thinking back, Last of Us had an incredible PC remake, even though it had a lot of technical issues in the beginning. The way that game looked on PC when it's running at all cylinders is truly amazing. And some of the fog and all that, it kind of reminds me of that. But this game, they really take it up a notch. It feels like every rock texture and every kind of water surface is really, really well crafted. And there's something about the dynamic water in this game that's next level. I've never seen water move this naturally. And they have some moments where the water is draining down a valley or something that's really, I simply have not seen anything done to that level. So it's really, really cool what they've done here. They have a very unique and artistic look with the anamorphic lens effect, where some areas of the picture are slightly out of focus, giving you this, unsettling feeling almost, which was very well done as well. And I would say the story is not that deep. When you compare it to the first game, I think Senua was going through more of an arc in the first game, where it does come to a kind of bigger closure at the end. Here, it feels like almost she's going through an adventure, and the game is pretty well structured with each, encounter having its tale associated, that it's really natural. It's really cool to explore each of those tales, but it doesn't feel like Senua herself has gone through an arc at the end of it, in my opinion. So I found it like the moment to moment was more enjoyable than the first game because I did enjoy the tales and the telling of it. But overall, it didn't stick with me as a huge journey that she went on. Rather, it was a fun adventure, even though it had some tense moments and all that. But overall, it didn't stick with me as this big story arc that she went on. Let me know in the comments if you felt differently. I'd be very curious to hearing your thoughts about the story if you've played through it. But yeah, let's just highlight the photo mode again, guys. This is probably the best photo mode I've had. I spent a lot of times just pausing, looking at different angles, and changing stuff up, getting some great shots. It's an incredible photo mode. I love to see it day one. So many games add this way later down the road, right? It's like a day 5 edition. Oh, we added a photo mode. Why wasn't that there day one? It's a beautiful game. Let us explore the different, perspectives and viewpoints with it. So awesome that it's there. I think the whole thing came together as a package with the presentation and the sound. Just amazing. I would say for the music, it's very brought down. There wasn't a ton of like fully fleshed out themes. But at the same time, a lot of the music or sounds are there to elevate the tension and the moments, and that worked really well. But I would have liked to have some memorable themes, when you have the moment of overcoming, if you had some type of swelling, victorious theme or something, at the very least, at the end of the game, I would have loved to see that. In the first game, that was one of the highlights for me, is when you come to the end of the journey, there's this beautiful theme that kicks in, and it kind of brings the whole journey you've been through back to your head full circle. Really enjoyable to enjoy that moment of success and overcoming in the end with that theme. In the first game, didn't quite have the same thing here. Like I said, the ending didn't land that powerfully for me, but overall the moment to moment was very enjoyable. So still, it's a very awesome experience to go through. Short and sweet. It's a Game Pass. You don't even have to pay like the normal full price for the game. I highly recommend it if you get a chance, and if you're into sort of immersive, slower narrative experiences. Very enjoyable. I didn't have any technical issues with the game. This may be different for you. Let me know in the comments how it ran on your system. On my PC, it ran pretty well, but of course, it has heavy PC requirements. So even my 3090 had trouble running the game at 4K, and the FPS did go lower than 60 at several times. But I gotta tell you, I didn't notice it that much because the nature of the game, you don't move that fast, right? So just looking around, it always felt really smooth and it looked incredible, right? When it's running at all cylinders. So it's still a really good technical game. I would love to see some better optimization so you can always hit that 60 at 4K with a powerful card. But even where it's at right now, it's still pretty solid. The only issues that I had were with camera. The camera kind of broke at a couple points where I wasn't able to actually, just look consistently where I needed to, and the camera was going nuts, and I needed to restart the game a few times. That only happened a couple times, so I don't know if other people will run into that. But outside of that, no crashes or anything else to report. So overall, pretty solid delivery here. I'm very happy that this finally came out in a good state. It's a fun, enjoyable experience. Highly recommend it if you get a chance. Let me know in the comments if you play it. What did you think of it? Did you like the story as much as the first one? And I would love for you to stop by the stream where we stream this game. And right now we're starting our Elden Ring second playthrough where we're doing a brand new character and kind of refreshing ourselves in the game, getting ready for the DLC, getting excited. So I hope to see you over there. The link down below. And we're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. So see you there. See you in the ACG podcast. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time.